Stichting Common Lisp Foundation means Foundation Common Lisp Foundation. So we've got the foundation part covered really well. And a group of us incorporated, and we'll talk in a minute about who that group is. We incorporated in Holland, but it's designed for global operations. And the Stichting is a foundation, so it's a nonprofit foundation. We may be seeking a higher level of tax benefits with a common good status. You have to petition for that. We may be able to use some help from folks in the room to vouch for the fact that it is indeed for the common good. And purpose is spelled out in our articles, which are registered, and I can bring them up, and they're available for anyone who's interested. And this purpose, as it's spelled out in the articles, so I'll read this verbatim just so we know, promoting and facilitating meetings, conferences, and networking opportunities. Well, the headline is to promote the use and development of the Common Lisp language by that first thing, and promoting the development of de facto standard functionality for Common Lisp with publicly available source code. Source code's handy. And the catch-all that some lawyer put on the end. Other allied activities consistent with the above stated aims and or reasonably likely to achieve them, construed in the broadest manner. We have some early sponsors. Freiheit.com. I don't know if was that Ralph? Is he here? Oh, Stefan, sorry. He's not, he donated to the conference, and he found out the conference is really a foundation behind it, so we have a sponsor from Germany. GenWorks BV, the Netherlands subsidiary of GenWorks, is sponsored by helping to pay the foundation costs. And then all of you lovely folks have donated by coming to this meeting, and it's likely that a small fraction of what you've paid will remain in the foundation's bank account for further fun activities, hopefully for everybody. So the board, we have, I think most of us here except the Japanese guy. So Ernst van Wanning, who's been involved with Common Lisp for a long time. Myself, I'm secretary. Arthur is the treasurer, who's also the organizer of this meeting. Kuroda is a long-time, very dedicated commercial Lisp user in Japan. And of course, Eddie Weitz, who's here and who's I think everyone knows, and is also involved in these conferences. So these are the official 5 to begin with. We, for convenience and for practicality's sake, we want to keep the official board a little bit on the small side for the time being. But we do want to be completely open and transparent about everything that's going on and invite feedback and participation. We're not sure exactly the logistics of all that at this point, but that's the attitude. As far as money, main bank account right now is in the Netherlands. We might open ones in additional regions to make it easier for payments to go through. Budgets and financial statements will be available. I don't know about to anyone in the whole world, but at least to people who are somehow associated with the foundation. We have a Dutchman in charge of money. I think that's a good thing. Yeah, if he's on your side, it's a good thing. We might seek common good status, as I mentioned. And I personally, we haven't officially adopted this or anything yet, but I am a proponent of this 90% rule in general, that 90% of what comes in gets spent. But the flip side of that is 10% of what comes in stays in. So over time, in theory, the pot should just grow, and we should have money to be able to do stuff. Of course, if that money starts making money, then 90% of that you can spend. So so no, I mean, all of us together, but mainly me, have proposed 5 basic activities. And I think these may cover most of what, I don't know, from what was said earlier today, this may have to be extended somewhat. But at the same time, I think it's important to be focused and do manageable bits early on. So of course, support for, and I should mention that wherever possible, we like to make each of these activities be self-sustaining, self-funding. Where the foundation can step in is to assume a bit of risk if someone wants to do a meeting and not have to put personal risk money into renting the hall and so on. And there may be some things that really are common good kind of activities, and it's just not practical to get them to fund themselves directly. In those cases, we hope to build up funds to actually be able to directly inject some. So support for local and global Common Lisp meetings on every scale and every level of complexity. So it included co-located meetings with the International Lisp Conference that should be looking at other Lisp dialects. With the Common Lisp meetings, we can know with a clear head that we're focused on Common Lisp, just because that's our definition. We're not fanatics necessarily or anything like that, but that's what we do in this role. And then library, I think validation and benchmarking is really important. It's a bit tricky to say that we're going to manage the development of libraries. I think the articles say that we're going to promote the development of libraries. But there are people doing libraries, but they'll probably do it for a while.